Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
It's not out of the park, but it wasn't a dumpster fire, which was really all we've asked for.
And Brandan Schultz.
Percy Harvin might be out there still. I mean, go after him.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake.
This is episode 166 of the Seahawkers podcast, your Seattle Seahawks podcast and finalist in the sports and recreation category of the People's Choice Podcast Awards for the second straight year. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I'm worried about you, Brandan. I'm worried about you being deep behind enemy lines, broadcasting this from an undisclosed location in San Francisco. I'm worried about your situation there.
Here's the thing. I am closer to Marshawn Lynch than I am any of the 49ers. So I feel like this is nearly home territory.
That's true. And if they ever went down, right, I'm going to guess you should be able to call on beast mode to be there to back you up, right? I mean, he's still going to back up a 12, you would think.
I feel like I have enough people in between me and Marshawn Lynch that if I put out the flare gun, I could get word to Marshawn fast enough that he could come save the day for me.
Good. Well, now I feel better. As long as beast mode can be there to save the day for you, they were in good shape. But he played in a preseason game this weekend. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. He just sat on the bench. But your Seattle Seahawks played in a preseason game this weekend because glorious football is back. It was a great football weekend. I was very excited about this. I'm so excited that I called Brandan earlier in the day just complaining that it wasn't kickoff time yet. I could barely contain myself. Brandan, not quite as excited.
I was not as excited as you leading up to the game, but I tell you what, come game time, come kickoff, and what we got to see throughout that game against the Chargers, a 48-17 beatdown of the Chargers in front of 21,000 in attendance in Carson, California.
The change of venue, the change of scenery did not seem to help the Chargers. You mentioned it was such a tiny stadium, 21,000. That's the same capacity roughly as Washington Grizzlies Stadium here in Missoula. I bet you that would be an interesting place to watch a game. There's no doubt about that. I almost wish we had a regular season matchup. I'd go to that.
I think it would be fun.
Despite the small settings for the Chargers and, coming to their home opener, they did get throttled by the Seahawks. It was a really fun way to start out the season, Brandan. Even if first drive of the game didn't feel great for the defense, pretty much everything from there really seemed to feel pretty decent. I mean, Russell Wilson got out there, did a few little Russell Wilson things. The O-line didn't look like the worst O-line in the league. Maybe just like the 21st worst O-line, like somewhere in there. That's okay. Like, that's kind of exciting. Enjoyed that. Receivers made some big plays. We saw a backup quarterback battle heat up. It was a very interesting game all the way around.
Yes, and we're going to talk about everything that we saw in this game from the first team guys. We'll talk about what we saw from the second string. The thing about this game, the second string guys really showed up in this game, and that's where the team really dominated. So we want to talk about some of the performances that stood out, both on offense and on defense. We're going to have Jessamyn McIntyre, producer for 710 ESPN. She's set to come on the show today. So looking forward to chatting with her. And of course, a big week for new members of the flock and some do better and better at life for us to round out the show this week, Adam.
You bet. Lots of big topics. We talked about it a little bit before we came out. We may even have to touch on the Mike Bennett thing real quick, just because apparently that's going to be the next big story we have to talk about as Seahawks fans. So we'll chime in on that, I guess.
We will chime in on it, but we're here to talk football.
Yes. So let's stick with football coming out of the gate, and let's just get right to it, Brandan. Probably the only one of two big negatives that came out of this game was, and it's not even that big a negative to me, first team defense got shredded on that first drive. Just shredded.
And it was by a lot of the things we're used to seeing, right? The tight ends beating us, short passes to the middle of the field. Now, there was one play that was both a negative and a positive that I saw, and that was the screen pass to the running back. And that was a big play for the Chargers on that first drive. But the thing that got me fired up was seeing third-round draft pick Nazir Jones run down the dude from behind and make the tackle on that screen pass.
Yeah, he played with a lot of energy. Somebody that Pete Carroll brought up in his press conference today about the type of energy and hustle that he brought, which was one of the biggest things about him coming out of the draft that people questioned a little bit. He kind of flashed. He played all over the field. I think that was a big positive. You know, one thing about the first string defense, you know, going out there and getting shredded a little bit. Number one, if there's any part of the team that I'm not going to worry about based on one series in the first preseason game, it's the Seahawks defense. So there's that. Secondly, it's preseason. There's no game planning. And look, any defense that plays a vanilla scheme against somebody with the type of experience like Phillip Rivers, give me a break. That's child's play for him. Right. I mean, it's literally taking Madden and putting it on like medium instead of, you know, professional or whatever the levels are now. I haven't played in years, but that's really what that's like there. And so not a lot of concern. I don't know if you kind of felt the same way about that.
I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I didn't think that the pass rush was really giving it their entire effort. And really, that's where, I mean, when you give Phillip Rivers any amount of time more than normal, and he's going to find an open receiver. So, no, I'm not particularly worried. I was more interested in seeing what Shaq Griffin would do, being out there opposite Richard Sherman. I was interested to see what Earl Thomas would do coming back from injury. And man, Earl Thomas, he showed me enough to make me realize that he is back. And, you know, he put that hit on the, you know, helping Griffin over the top. Even the play toward the end zone, Earl was right there to put a shot on Antonio Gates. So it filled me with a little bit of confidence with Earl Thomas back on the field.
Yeah, he definitely looked game ready, which is great to see. Shaq Griffin, I thought, you know, he had nice play on, I believe it was a go route early. And then he did get beat on the touchdown to Gates. But, you know, I mean, again, that's his first rookie experience in the NFL. And he got beat by a Hall of Famer in the end zone. It'll be okay. I think he can do a lot.
Part of me is happy that that's going to be kind of a cool story. Like the first dude who ever scored on me, Hall of Famer Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
That's going to work well for him going forward, no doubt. But we'll see that competition heat up a little more come next week. It sounded like Jeremy Lane is on track so far to be back next week. So that'll be interesting to watch as next week rolls around. And then we got to the offense. They get their first drive out there. And what were your impressions on that, Brandon? What stuck out to you there? Let's just say on that first drive.
I really like seeing Russell Wilson out there. Because even if we only got to see him for a drive, he's out there doing Russell Wilson things. I mean, 107 quarterback rating, throws for 41 yards. The weird thing about the first drive to me was, here we've talked all season about being a running team. And I thought they would maybe run the ball a little bit more in that first drive.
Well, yeah, I was a little surprised at that. That was one of the things that I had written down in my notes here was running game ? Because we really didn't see a concerted effort throughout the game to really feature that until Chris Carson was really back there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was a lot of throwing the rock around. So that was a little weird to see, I guess. I mean, just because like you're saying, but maybe throughout practice, they feel a lot better about their run blocking as they've been in practice. And so when they're evaluating these offensive linemen, they're trying to put them in a lot more passing situations to try to get more evaluations to use there. That'd be about the only thing that I could think of. And speaking of them on that first drive, you know, did okay in a couple plays, and Russ had to move around and kind of save the day on a couple things. But there wasn't that initial, like, dead off the snap of the ball, a dude's in his face. And that was the killer of all last year. Because Russell can work with, give me a step or two, at least let me hit my back plant foot on my drop and have one read, and then I can move. You give him that and you're golden.
Yes, and so we saw that. And then we had the one big highlight from that first drive, and that was the Russell Wilson pass to Paul Richardson, where Paul Richardson looks like he's picking right back up where he left off last year.
Russell takes the shotgun snap, looks, lobs one over the top. Richardson, a reaching, diving, one-handed catch, and knocked out of bounds on the near sidelines, inside the 35-yard line of the Chargers. What a catch by Paul Richardson, who gets the start in place of Doug Baldwin tonight. Now, he's leaving the field favoring his right arm. We hope he's all right. But a 25-yard gain down the left sideline, 1st and 10.
Oh, he totally is picking right up where he left off last year, Brandan. He makes it a really amazing athletic play and then goes straight to the locker room.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Brandan, is over under. How many games do we see out of P. Rich this year? No. How many snaps do we see from P. Rich this year?
That's not an unfair question based off his history, right? And based on what we saw in this first game. Now, it was just the first game of preseason. But when you look at the depth that they have at wide receiver, when you look at Kasen Williams having a huge day, 4 catches, 119 yards. When you see, Kenny Lawler, last year's late round draft pick, out there making a couple catches. When you see, you have 4 guys you have a few guys that you already expect to make the team. Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Jermaine Kearse. I thought Paul Richardson was on that list. But when you start getting down, and you have J.D. McKissick, who's, kind of a guy who can play wide receiver now. He can be your punt returner, your kick returner. He can also play running back in a pinch. That seems like a guy who could take a wide receiver spot. So, and you got Tanner McAvoy, who is out there making catches. There's too many guys to make the team at that spot. You're going to end up, that's what makes me think, Paul Richardson, he could lose a spot if he's not able to be out there. And those other guys, they just haven't shown. Kasen Williams, he's been trying to make the team for 3 years. I was happy to see him really look good in a preseason game.
Okay, so my over-under on Paul Richardson snaps, just so you know, is 64.5, and I'm taking the under. I don't know, because I've just lost that much faith, like, at this point. But
see, if it's 64 snaps, though, Adam, what's the point of him being on the roster?
That's exactly right. But I think he is that uber talented that it's hard to keep him off the roster at that point. But good news out of Pete Carroll today in his press conference. Apparently, Paul Richardson back in practice today, did a lot of work right out of the gate. They were surprised. And Pete even said he didn't know what that meant for this weekend. So, maybe there was a thought he could play, but that sounds dumb to me. P-Rich definitely feels the pressure you were alluding to, Brandan, that if he's not out there and producing, injuries or health is a part of talent. And right now that's where he's struggling. So, but you were right about Kasen Williams. Boy, did he shine.
Yeah, 4 catches, and just every catch too. Going up in the air. They were all, somewhat contested. He had the ability to high point the ball on several occasions. The concentration that he had because there was a defender that had his hands on the football too, and he was able to come down with it. So he's one of the, and we talked to him about him a little bit in the offseason as one of those guys that could be a possibility. The other guy who we haven't talked about, who was not out there this weekend, Amara Darboh, 3rd round pick. And there's another guy, if he's not able to make it on the field, then isn't going to be a guy who can find his way onto the team.
Right. There's a possibility there. And again, I got to see something out of Darboh first.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions in my mind about his ability, to this point. Again, just looking at stuff that I saw in college, I wasn't overly impressed. So we'll see. But I'm curious to see if Kasen Williams is one of those guys that has that one big preseason game and then you never really hear from him again, or if he can string it together for 2 or 3 games. If he strings it together, he makes a pretty strong case for himself. There's no doubt about it. Now, the best part about that is the fact that we get to call him Karen Williams for the entire year, because for those of you who don't know, on the Ring of Honor during the game, that's who Brandan called Kasen Williams is Karen Williams.
Autocorrect got me on that one. I had typed Kasen Williams. It shows up as Karen Williams. And then I step away from Facebook for a little while, come back, and everybody is just crushing me over the fact that they're like, who's Karen Williams? And I love Karen. She's great.
Yeah, I love Karen. That's what I put.
Now somebody's already ordered me, I think, a custom Karen number 18 jersey.
That'd be fantastic. I hope that happens.
I'll proudly wear it too. I'll own that.
So let's talk a little bit more about offensive line, Brandan. I don't know. Was there anybody that stood out to you, good, bad, or indifferent among that group? Was there anything there that really caught your eye?
Speaking of the Ring of Honor, Cameron Cole from our Ring of Honor, he took a little bit of extra care rewatching the game and says, After rewatching last night's game, Ibushi, Jokel, Britt, Fant all had solid games through 3 drives. The left side of the line looked solid, regardless of whether it was Fant Jokel or Jokel Odiambo. Glowinski was up and down, surprisingly better in pass pro than in run blocking. Ifedi wasn't bad for the first half of the first drive, then, very suddenly, it got bad. Complete whiffs and missed assignments, both on pass blocking and run blocking. Ifedi will be my primary focus come game 2. I'm really hoping for him to bounce back. And I noticed something. Ifedi was the guy that I was kind of watching too, because he did have he let it get away from him there for a little bit. I am willing, though, to give Ifedi a little bit of a break, because this is his first time playing right tackle at a professional level against a real opponent. So I'm just gonna give him a break in this game.
Yeah, it definitely was a little concerning to me, the Ifedi play. Now, as far as Fant goes, he had a whiff or two in there as well. He got bailed out by Odiambo a couple times. He was able to come off and chip and things like that. I thought Odiambo played a really solid game. I thought Jokel played well. I actually liked Posick quite a bit. I liked his athleticism, and he kind of played with a little bit of a nasty streak. If I was Ifedi, I'd be looking over my shoulder at Posick, because he looked like he could really play.
One guy I was kind of impressed by was the backup center, Joey Hunt. You saw him playing a majority of the game out there, and where I thought he seemed undersized last year, I feel like he looked like a lineman.
Yeah, he found the beef.
Yeah.
He put it right on. There's no doubt about that. Joey Hunt looking much more NFL-y out there.
I don't know how he looks taller, if he's wearing, lifts in his shoes or what, but...
it's the hair, dude.
Oh, that's what
it's the hair.
It's the hair.
Yeah.
He does have good hair.
Gives the illusion of height. Yeah. Not sure the physics of that and how that works, but just trust me on that.
It works.
So overall, I think a good, a decent first showing for the line. Like, it's not out of the park, but it wasn't a dumpster fire, which was really all we've asked for.
I mean, that's really what allowed Trevon Boykin all that time to just step back and sling it. 15 passes, completed 12 of them, 189 yards for Boykin. For what you heard coming into this game about how Boykin, looked terrible in practice, it was so good to see him come out. And I'm okay if he's a gamer. If he's going to look terrible in practice, I do not care. What I want is if he needs to come in and sling it down the field, that he can step in and do it. And if he can do it behind the second string offensive line, now maybe we have to question the depth of the pass rush for the San Diego Chargers. But this was a good look at Boykin.
So loose, fast, and on the edge of out of control. This is the Trevon Boykin's experience.
Fun to watch, though, isn't it?
It's real fun. It's real fun to watch. And I just want to thank Trayvon because I picked my daughter up from volleyball practice and tryouts today. Mm-hmm. And this is like day 3. And, she was talking about how she just stinks through all the drills and everything. And then they go out and scrimmage and plays well. I was like, that's okay. Sometimes you're just a gamer. And look at Trevon Boykin from just last night. I was able to point that out. So I want to thank him for that teaching moment there. But he clearly is a game guy. That's who he is. And, I love that he's making everybody eat their words, because I remember somebody on this podcast saying not long ago that Trevon Boykin was your backup quarterback, and I don't understand why you'd be looking for anybody else. And all I got to say is, I told you. I told you so. There it is. There's the magic. I said, did everybody forget what he does when he comes in? Yeah, everybody forgets.
Thanks for the reminder of how just so right you were.
So right.
I knew you couldn't let that slip. I knew that you had to take that one and just, show it off.
Well, what else was I supposed to do? Would you expect you'd be disappointed if I didn't? Because it would totally throw off everything that you know and love about me. You know that too.
Well, we talked a little bit about how disappointing the run game was, but I think there was a dude that many of us fell in love with in this game, and it was Chris Carson. And part of it, okay, maybe not you so much, but I know I speak for not just myself what I saw from Chris Carson. Now, the first touchdown, it was cool because he actually ran behind Marcel Reese, a fullback, and got into the end zone. I like when they when they run it in to the end zone behind a fullback. I like that.
Seahawks first and goal at the 1. Boykin under center. I backfield. Turn. Hand to Carson. Puts his head down. He's in. Touchdown, Seahawks. Chris Carson, the rookie that everybody's been talking about in training camp out of Oklahoma State, pounds it in from 1. The Seahawks stretch their lead, taking advantage of turnovers.
Just smash mouth in your face, try to stop us. Good luck. You can't.
Yeah. And then the second time Carson went into the end zone, absolutely trucked one of the Los Angeles Chargers linemen just right into the end zone.
Yeah, he ran with good power. Maybe I didn't fall in love, Brandon, but I did fall in like.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he had a nice game. We'll see. I just need more. I just need more. Again, this is a lot like Thomas Rawls from a couple of years ago, and everybody was talking him up in camp, and I was like, yeah, undrafted guy. Let's see. And it took a couple games, but then you were like, yeah, okay, I got it. I see how that could be.
And Carson, he would have had a lot better game. He had one big run called back. And so 7 carries for 19 yards, not real flashy, but if you throw in the one that got called back, he had a pretty good game. Mike Davis, 8 rushes, 33 yards. He led the team in rushing. And he also, I think he led the team in broken tackles and broke 4 tackles on the day. So he might be a guy that you throw into the mix too. Eddie Lacy, not real excited about what I saw from him. Alex Collins, not super excited about what I saw from him. So it's the first game. I mean, Lacy's going to make the team.
Yeah, definitely going to make it. Now, Mike Davis was, I think, my 4th, quote, I thought I was a fan, end quote, moment of the game. I had many of those. I think the first one was, who is it? Like Marcus
Lucas?
Oh, geez, who the heck was Marcus Lucas?
Yeah,
I was like, who the hell is Marcus Lucas? Then that French guy gets in there at some point and does something like that. Yeah. I thought I was a fan. That happened to me more than I could count on one hand, but I think it uses all the fingers. It happened to me multiple times.
I think the one for me was when you had backup quarterback Austin Davis do the shovel pass to, I think, was it Swoops?
Oh, I'd heard about Swoops and the 18-wheel package at Texas and all that. I knew that one.
Well, I knew that he was a quarterback that converted to tight end. But that whole play.
By the 3rd and 4th quarter, dudes just blur together.
I know.
Yeah. Especially after about 5 or 6 beers, because let's not lie, I was super excited. I was going to drink some beer while watching my Hawks. Like, that's how that was going down.
And there's one guy that we really need that I was doing the happy dance over, because Blair Walsh had 8 opportunities to miss a kick and was entirely perfect on the night. And I couldn't be happier about that.
Well, so not only perfect, but none of them were even close to being shaky, right?
Right.
Like, they all were just like, boop, straight, dead down the middle. Like, he looked calm. Like, and when he made him, it wasn't like you saw the sense of relief or anything. He was just like, yeah, catfish. I made it. That gives me a lot of hope with that, man. That's good to see. I mean, it's not a playoff game and a pressure moment. I get all that, but you got to start somewhere. And it sounds like since that first day of practice, it's really kind of come back together to him. Maybe Blair Walsh got his groove back.
I hope so, because I'm just feeling like there's not many better options at this point.
No, the Bucks released that Aguayo kid.
Bears picked him up.
Who has the yips, and the Bears snag him. So I think that's probably going to be a sneaky good move for them when it's all said and done.
Well, we talked a lot of offense, and rightly so, because when you put 48 points up on the board and 31 points by your second string, just in the first half,
right?
That's fun to see.
It is fun to see, and credit that defense for that. 4 turnovers, man. They remember how, it's all about the ball, and that was a big problem for this team over the last year and a half or so. It's just turnovers down. Good to see that come to life in this game.
The first touchdown of the game being a defensive touchdown with Michael Wilhoit laying the wood and the ball popping up in the air. Terrence Garvin comes down with it. Goes 37 yards to the house.
2nd down and 8 from the 31. Kellen Clemens, continuing a quarterback for the Chargers, takes the shotgun snap. Steps up, throws over the middle. Ball is picked up. Going the other way. Down to the 20, 15. Nobody's going to touch him. Terrence Garvin, touchdown, Seahawks! Welcome to the Seahawks, young man. A 35-yard pick. And Terrence Garvin, an unrestricted free agent from Washington, picks it off and takes it in untouched.
That goes a long ways to help him secure the Sam linebacker position. So congratulations to Garvin there. Nice flash play.
You think he might be your starting Sam, huh?
Plug-in dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of the many linebackers that we have primarily for special teams.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we've done for years. I mean, we play 75% nickel anyways. So for that 25% of the time he's actually out on the field, like, just plug in dude. It's always been fine. Like, a league average dude there seems to be okay.
Sure.
So with this walloping of the Chargers, does that give you any kind of feeling as to the depth of this team? Because to me, Brandon, I remember that 2013 season, and I think everybody to a man felt like we had the deepest team in the league, bar none. And it felt like even if a couple guys go down, we got enough dudes to right the ship.
It depends on where the depth is. I like the depth on the defensive line. I like the depth at linebacker. When I saw Tedrick Thompson not be in position to allow that 74-yard touchdown pass to Travis Benjamin, who was for some reason still on the field with the second string, I questioned that a little bit. But you got McDougal back there who can kind of play both spots. I guess if you lose more than one safety, you're looking at potentially trouble. The cornerback still kind of a question mark because now we see Jermaine Brock signed, who had played for the 49ers and was.
I thought they were just kicking the tires.
It sound from what John Clayton was saying today. He expects Brock to be signed.
Do you remember when Antoine Winfield was signed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And remember how I never played a game?
Yeah.
So basically all this is just insurance. You got a guy who can play league average ball. He's a replacement level player that can come in and play league average ball. And you're going to sign him for dirt cheap. And he's available right now. You can bring him in. And this is just in case that either Griffin or Lane doesn't impress enough at the right cornerback spot until Deshaun Shedd comes back healthy. So it's just insurance. He could very well be right back off the roster before week 1.
Well, the one thing that makes a little bit of sense to me, if he even signs, but his ability to play the nickel corner spot. If you have Lane starting on the outside and you don't see what you need from Griffin early on, then Brock could potentially be your guy to be the nickel guy if you see Lane as an outside guy the entire time.
Yeah. And I thought Desir had a decent game.
He did have a decent game.
Corner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a positive showing there.
He was one of the guys that I wrote down that stood out to me. Isaiah Jones, I mentioned him. Not only did he have the tackle where he ran down the screen pass after about 18 yards, but he was the one who tipped the pass. And after it was picked off by one of the other linemen, Jones just lays a huge block on one of the offensive linemen.
3rd and 10 shotgun snap. Clemens looks, ball slapped up in the air. Ball is intercepted. Big defensive lineman Tyler Harris reaches up, slaps that ball up in the air, and then is there to bring the ball down for the interception. The second pick of the game for the Seahawks D.
I like the toughness. I like the awareness. And I like the athleticism that we saw from Jones. So he's another guy that stood out to me in this game. And Shaq Griffin, I want to see more before I'm ready to. I know you said based on what we were hearing from practice, it sounded like he could be a guy early on that the Seahawks would look at starting. I still need to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see. I was just speaking to the way that Pete Carroll giggled about him like a little schoolgirl.
Right.
I mean, that's enough to, I mean, if you're parsing Pete, right, and like reading between the lines, I mean, that's where that came from.
No, you can tell
me.
when he's really excited about a guy, and Pete Carroll's really excited about Shaq Griffin.
That was one of the things I took from his press conference when they asked him about Fant. And he's kind of like, yeah, he's still bigger. And, he was really excited when he came to the locker room when he was done. Like those are the types of things he was talking, not like I went out there and really, locked up that left tackle position or anything like that. So you can kind of tell just by the way that he speaks about guys.
He's not going to say anything negative, but he will say something that is probably factual.
Yeah. He ties his shoes faster than anybody else on the team. I'll tell you what.
He was super fired up to be out there.
Mm-hmm. He's our go-to guy to go and cut off football pants for Earl Thomas to wear. He's our number one guy for that.
I guarantee I've never heard him say that.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, something factual that really has nothing to do with their play on the field.
Anything else from this game stand out to you?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can only glean so much from a week 1 preseason game, but holy smokes, it was awesome to see him out there and in pads and running and hitting. It was exciting. I look forward to week 2 coming up here on Friday against the Chiefs. That should be another really cool test for that offensive line with their pass rushers. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's too bad that you have to wait a week and a half for that because they're playing the Vikings this weekend.
Oh, is it the Vikings this weekend?
Yeah, this Friday's the Vikings.
Oh, I thought it was the Chiefs. All right, well, good enough. Well, the Vikings have a really good defensive line too, so I'm super excited to see that also, Brandon. That should be pretty cool.
Well, I was going to ask you what you're looking forward to in this next game, but I guess you just are ready to see the offensive line go up against some good defensive line. You don't care which one it is.
Well, I mean, as long as they're a good one, and I mean, the Vikings are not as good as anybody. I mean, that's a cool test. Let's give that a whirl. I like that idea. Plus, Sam Bradford should be easy to sack, when our defensive line gets out there. So we can see that pass rush crank up again from our guys. That's
one thing I do want to see in this game. I want to see the pass rush cranked up a little more. First team, especially.
Yeah, that was the one area of concern, I guess, watching that first string defense was, just like you said, the pass rush. So yeah, that was at the top of my list. I guess next on my list would be just a little more Shaq Griffin. Mm-hmm. I mean, we kind of touched on this just as we recap the last game, just kind of the guys that we're excited to see more of. I really want to see him pound the rock.
Yeah,
I want to see him pound the rock. I want to watch Thomas Rawls go. I want to watch Eddie Lacy go. That, to me, will be very interesting.
And this would be a good defensive line to test that out against.
Yes, absolutely. So you're a little worried about Lacy after that first showing? Did he look a little China from Chubstery?
I didn't expect him to really show off, and he is coming back from an ankle injury. So again, it's one of those. I give him a little bit of leeway, but I'm also not one of those people that say, Eddie Lacy, you got to cut him.
Yeah, he's not. I'm not looking at him to cut or anything.
I'm not worried about our bet. I mean, 600 all-purpose yards. I mean, come on. When Alex Collins doesn't make the team, those numbers have to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's to your new man crush, Chris Carson. That's what it sounded like to me. You really think you're going 2 for 2 on bets this year?
Oh yeah, because I'm already 1 for 1 on the other one, right?
Yeah, you're gonna be.
Yeah, because I watched that Rams game and I did not see Cooper Kupp taking any punt returns or kick returns.
Right.
And the Rams just signed a new number 1 receiver with Sammy Watkins coming to town. If he makes, if he's healthy enough to stay on the field.
Yeah, that's the big if with him, man. That was a weird move to me. I honestly think the Bills got the better end of that deal.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
Because they get a corner, they get picks. Because didn't they get like a second and a third?
I know they got at least the second, and I couldn't remember what the second one is. And they got a starting level corner,
and they got the receiver from Philly.
Yeah, so then they traded one of their starting corners to Philly for their Matthews, the
Jordan Matthews,
I mean, who's an underachiever a bit with Philly, but yeah. So good luck with that, Rams.
I honestly, I don't understand the move with Watkins coming into the final year of his contract.
If the Rams are one player away from going to the Super Bowl, then I get the trade.
Right.
But they're not that close.
No, they're not that close.
I mean, wasn't there one touchdown, like a fumble recovery in the end zone?
Yeah. Robert Woods dropped the ball after he got hit, and Cooper Kupp happened to be in the area to fall on it for a touchdown. And that was their one touchdown in the entire game.
Oh, that's right, Robert Woods. So basically, is their goal is just to collect all the Bills receivers?
All the old Bills receivers. Percy Harvin might be out there still. I mean,
yeah.
Go after him.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
Absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned.
Nothing.
Ready to watch the dumpster fire burn.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, moving on.
Yes, moving on.
I'm tired of talking Rams.
I understand.
Catfish!
The Rams.
Yeah, always and forever.
With that, let's get into our interview with Jessamyn McIntyre. And we now welcome on this week Jessamyn McIntyre, executive producer at 710 ESPN, in her 9th year covering the Seahawks. Jessamyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you have an event coming up at Chop Suey that you're going to be hosting. We've talked about it a little bit on past shows that I want to talk about. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the Seahawks in this last Sunday's game against the LA Chargers. 48-17 win. What really stood out to you in this last game?
Well, there were a few things. There were a couple of guys that stood out to me that made a name for themselves. The biggest thing, though, was the fact that the Seahawks really dominated in the way that they used to, and it was reminiscent of 2013. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think it got their swagger back a little bit to the point where they can feel the confidence that they used to have back when they really got on that train of we're the best team in the league and we're not going to let anyone tell us otherwise. So the biggest thing was their swagger that I saw. One of the things that was a little bit of a concern was that the first defense couldn't get off the field and they let them score in the first drive, but it was pretty much nothing else after that. Their depth really showed up, because, I mean, there were a lot of people on that field that day, and there were a lot of names called that you probably haven't have heard before. Yep, exactly. But that's preseason. So there's a lot of things that stood out to me, but, the biggest thing is that this team has their swagger back and they're ready to go. On the defensive side, we can get into specifics, I guess, a little bit later. But on the defensive side of the ball, I noticed their secondary is extremely deep.
Yeah. And, well, let's go back to the swagger, because what do you think? I mean, they clearly had it in that 2013 season. It looked like they had it in the 2014 season. Do you think it just takes some time to bounce back from that devastating of a loss? Or do you think it was some of the stuff that went on even in the media over the offseason that kind of, I don't know, that gave them a little bit of extra fire coming into the preseason? Or do you just think it's the amount, seeing the kind of depth that they have on that defense and in the running game now that gives them that extra little bit of swagger?
Well, I don't think in the running game anything could ever compare to Marshawn Lynch and the kind of swagger the offense had with that. I will say, though, the defense, I don't know if they ever lost it. They just got less talked about because everyone all of a sudden was talking about the Seahawks. And, no one talked about Richard Sherman anymore because no one was throwing the ball his way. So I don't know that they ever lost it. We just weren't talking about it. I will say, though, when it comes to the swagger and when it comes to that devastating loss, it did take some time, and they've readily admitted it, that it took some time for them to get over that. And, I mean, the team went to certain members of the team went to Hawaii together to actually try, they shouted off a cliff. We had members of the team tell us in interviews that they all went out and tried to get over it together, and they did, they said that they got over it. And obviously, in this past year with certain things that came out with Richard Sherman speaking to the media or certain members of the media, that, there were certain things that weren't gotten over, and that play really harkened on people, both on the defensive side and the offensive side. I don't think anyone on that team didn't have a right to feel a certain way about that specific play, because that's where it ended. Not to say that that was the reason that they lost, because there were multiple things that happened in that game, but that's where it ended. So when it comes to having the swagger back, it's not only feeling as confident as you are in the ability of the team as a player, but it also has to do with getting over it.
Well, here's one kind of crazy thing that I can't get over the seeing on some of the shows is, and you hear some of the comments about, asking if whether or not the Seahawks team is, if the championship window is closing, because I look at the dudes in the secondary, Jessamyn, and I don't see guys that are, on the way to being washed up. I see guys, Richard Sherman's in his prime. You see, Earl Thomas is still in his prime. Yeah, he had the injury issues last year. Cam's had some injury issues. But these dudes, these aren't guys that are, just hanging on by a thread. They're guys that are still in the prime of their career. It's
funny because I still I've been out here since 2009, and I forgot that Cam was drafted in 2010. It was not that, or it was a very long time ago, but it doesn't seem like it's that long ago. And for these guys to be considered old now, I get it. It's a young league, but I don't think their championship window is anywhere close to closing. I'm trying to think of who the oldest person on the team is right now, and the oldest people on the team are not the guys that are leading them, into the season at all.
It might be Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. Those might. When I think of older guys on the team, those are the guys that come to my mind.
It's funny. I wanted to say Michael Bennett, but I didn't want him to find out that I said that because then he'd get mad at me. No, but he's the first person that I thought of, actually, and I'm like, maybe he's the oldest, leader on this team, but.
John Ryan's been there forever, so I guess we could probably be safe. And I guess we don't want John Ryan to fight us either. He's pretty tough.
Also a guy that signed a new contract last year, so let's not hold it against him. But seriously, when it comes to guys who are playing at the peak of their career, as young as they are, I think that they're in a really good position.
Well, let's talk about the young guys, because you mentioned kind of some of that depth in the secondary now. And who are you excited out of the new members that the Seahawks have brought in this year?
Oh, man, Shaq Griffin excites me a ton. He is someone that Richard Sherman has taken under his wing, and that's also something that's exciting to see, a veteran like Richard Sherman taking someone under his wing, because he's extremely competitive, obviously, and he has got it. He was playing with the ones today, and he looks so good. Also, just a good guy you really like to root for. He is someone who I can see really elevating to the next level, just the next generation of the Legion of Boom. He is an understudy like no other. He is ready to play. He is ready to listen to anyone who has anything to tell him. He wants to learn. He's young. He's hungry. He is someone in that secondary I'm super excited about.
So here we've answered the question, Jessamyn. John Ryan is the oldest at 35.
Okay.
Marcel Reese, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Ataba Rubin, all over 30.
Okay. Yep, that is exactly who I had in mind. I forgot about Ataba, so I give you credit on that one. But yeah, I knew John Ryan was on the older end, and I feel bad for not giving him credit as a veteran. But
right.
John stays
American Ninja Warrior.
Shouldn't he have been in Canadian Ninja Warrior?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So coming up against this game against the Vikings, we saw what we saw. I think we can say relatively good things out of the offensive line. As much junk as I feel like fans have talked about the offensive line over the offseason, like we can be pretty optimistic, I think, given what they showed us in the first game.
As in, we can't go down from here?
Well, that it's going to be better than last year, right? It has to be.
We didn't see any glaring omissions, at least in the first game. Let me tell you about a few guys that I'm excited about: Luke Jokel and Ode Abushi. And I had a chance to sit down with both of them in the past couple of weeks, and these guys, they've got potential. Especially Luke Jokel, he's widely considered a bust I would say he had a little bit of bad luck, had some injury issues, and signed with the Seahawks on a prove-it year. He actually said that. He said, I'm in a prove-it year. And I think that Pete Carroll and John Schneider get the most out of guys that want to prove themselves. And everybody likes to say chip on the shoulder. I don't think that Luke Joeckel has a chip on his shoulder. I think he knows he has to prove it. And he's ready to do that. And those guys also have such level heads on their shoulders that if they do well, the kind of leadership that they will bring to that offensive line will do well for them as a unit entirely. I'm telling you, like that has got to be the most, I would say, underappreciated, because you don't talk about the offensive line unless they're doing poorly. So in an extremely underappreciated position, if you have strong leadership there from guys who are doing well, that will just pay off in multitudes. I really, that's why I'm rooting for both of those guys. And obviously I want Justin Britt has got it, but he's played everywhere on the offensive line. He's solidified. He's good to go. And if you get those guards and tackle positions in line, I think I'm actually really confident in this offensive line this year, but it might just be because of my hopes and dreams for them.
Well, I guess the one way that I still have questions is that I don't know if I saw enough in this last game to really say going into the season, I'll still be able to pick where every guy is going to start. I still don't think that we have, and maybe the team doesn't even have a great idea on what that's going to look like.
No, nobody does. Are you kidding me? Guards, I can tell you this. Justin Britt will be your starting center.
Right. I think that's where we can be the most confident. And even that, I can say with maybe a fraction of maybe 1 or 2% that I would still question that. But I feel most confident in him being there.
Yeah, I would go with that. No, I mean, you never know. Tom Cable, obviously extremely experimental with every position on the offensive line. I do think that Jermaine Ifedi will be your starting right tackle. I can say that with confidence. I really do. I do think that he's being challenged. I think that there's a lot of competition on there, but I think I can say this. Tom Cable has a more competitive group than he has had in the past few years.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that can only be positive, but I still, and I guess that right tackle spot would maybe be the second most confidence I have in a position. I don't know if it's going to be Glowinski or Ibushi at the right guard, but it seems like it's between those guys. Left tackle could be Fant or Joeckel, and then it seems like that the left guard spot is whoever the best guy left is, whether it's Odiambo or, you know, if Joeckel ends up playing because Fant's the guy at the left tackle position.
Honestly, the last thing you just said might be the best case scenario, because if those two guys push each other that hard, that actually could happen. Look at how uneducated George Fant was in that position and how much weight he gained. 26 pounds this offseason. And he looks like a monster. He sat down on our set the other day and I could not, he gained it proportionately. Like I've never seen a guy gain that much weight and have it look like work. He did not sit down and eat ice cream and ham every day. He actually put that on the right way. But I mean, Reese Odiambo has to produce. He has to come up as a starter at some point because they did not draft him to sit on the bench. But if you're looking at best case scenario, if you're talking about, Fant not, Fant and Joeckel working it out and him not winning that position, I'm okay with that because Fant was playing it last year. And if Joeckel's better than him, I'd have him on the outside.
And then you have, if Odiambo's that guy that starts at the left guard position, or, maybe Glowinski moves back, and I'm okay with Fant sitting another year and learning behind a more veteran dude. If he made this much jump to where we heard him talking in his press conference on Monday, talking about how he looks at the tape of him in the preseason against the Vikings last year, and he doesn't even recognize him as being the same dude. If he's made that kind of jump to make himself unrecognizable to himself, then I can't imagine another year can only be a good thing for him.
That's true. And he's young and he's hungry. And if that's the case where he's sitting, then the offensive line is in a good position.
Well, Jessamyn, coming up for about a week or so, you're going to be hosting Tackle Talks at Chop Suey in Seattle. That's August 23rd at 7 o'clock. And I just saw this announced that Warren Moon is going to be there with you.
Yeah, he's going to be our headliner. We're really excited because obviously he is out there every day. He covers the team. He's an analyst for the radio broadcast. And he is a Hall of Famer. He knows as much as anyone does about football and especially the Seahawks. So we're really excited to have him. And it's just a really good event for the fans to come down and just see a bunch of different people who cover the team on a regular basis and hear them talk about the Seahawks in just a more casual setting than they get through the media. And also a Q&A. We're going to have, we have 3 different panels, and all of the fans that come will have the ability to ask questions after they hear our discussions. We're going to have each different panel will be discussing different things involving the Seahawks. And I don't know, it'll just be a very different fan engagement than we usually have when it comes to people that cover the team.
Well, and the cool thing I'm seeing, it's not just the local beat writers, like Greg Bell, Tim Booth, Bob Condota. You also have fans like Hawk blogger Brian Nemhauser there. You have Danny O'Neill there. So it sounds like there'll be at least somebody to deliver some really bad jokes, and that'll be fun.
Oh, yes. The puns will be flying. Yeah, no, it's a great mix of people that I should say not just cover the team, but follow the team. So there's a lot of different perspectives you'll get in just one setting. So it should be a really good time. I'm really looking forward to it.
Jessamyn, really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some of your time and talking about this last game with the Seahawks.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Thanks to Jessamyn for coming on the show, and you can go to homestandsports.com/Seahawkers. Seahawkers, one word. And you can sign up there for 2 free tickets to Tackle Talks coming up August 23rd, 7 p.m. at Chop Suey. Or you can use the promo code Seahawkers and get in the door for $10 a ticket. Just enter the code Seahawkers at checkout. That's at homestandsports.com. And Adam, before we get into the second half of the show, let's talk a little bit about Pristine Auction.
I'm jonesing, man. What do I need next as a Seahawks fix here? Like, what? Tell me what's on board, because don't they have like daily auctions?
To make sure you don't miss anything, you really want to go there daily. And you can go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/auction. Takes you to all their Seahawks stuff. They got some Dave Craig, Kurt Warner autograph photos for all the Sean Alexander. So looking at some of the older players.
That's some cool stuff. The Dave Craig autograph, it would be pretty cool. That's something that speaks to me a little bit.
Yeah, here's $20 right here. Eddie Lacy signed Seahawks football. So if you're on my side, the Eddie Lacy is going to have a solid season.
I might buy the Eddie Lacy football just to mock all you guys with it.
I feel like the winner between the two of us should get the Eddie Lacy autograph football.
I'm in on this. I'm in on the Eddie Lacy. So if I'm going to go buy it, like you go to Pristine, right? It's like Pristine. Pristine Auction.
The sign-up process is super easy. You only pay if you win the auction. If you just want to go straight to the Seahawks stuff, go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/auction. Getting into the second half of the show, what do you say we welcome some new members of the flock?
Let's do it, man, because we're going to be busy. It was a huge week. I don't know what happened, but welcome, folks. Welcome to the flock. It was good for people, I think.
Yeah, football season has arrived, and maybe this is just a thanks for us helping get people through the off season. I know we have one email, Adam. This is coming up. One of my favorite emails of all time. So,
all right,
yes, and if you haven't seen this yet, I guarantee it'll be one of your favorites too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are there poop jokes?
You know what?
Because usually those sort of things are my favorite.
It's not poop jokes, but I did. Okay. I was a little bit bummed out that when we had Clint Gresham on last week, that I failed to ask him about, because there was a pretty good reference right in the beginning of his book about how guys tend to get nervous before games, and it had to do with poop.
I don't know how you whiffed on that, man.
I know. I feel, you know how sometimes I talk about how after a show I'll regret certain things?
Yes.
That's one of my regrets, is not asking him about that.
Yeah.
Well, getting into Welcome of the Flock, let's welcome Crystal Gundry, who got in at the 12 level.
Wow. Well, welcome, Crystal. That's a huge level right there.
I know. And our ladies in the Ring of Honor were happy to see that another female had joined in. So,
oh, absolutely,
very cool. And
we're well represented by the ladies in the Ring of Honor.
I know.
Yeah, they're awesome, man.
I'm proud of that too. You know, as a couple of guys who have daughters only.
Yes,
it makes me happy knowing that this show just isn't for dudes.
Yeah, absolutely. Not something I expected, by the way, either.
No. And also, welcome to the flock to Mark Martella in the $12 level. And he says, "Good day, fellas. I just signed up for the very 12-y Patreon and I couldn't find where to leave a note. Anyway, I decided to say hi here." He sent this in via the website, I think, and says, "Okay. I'm Mark from the tiny little Curup in Western Australia. I've been a Seahawks fan since I discovered my second favorite discipline of football. Nothing beats Australian football. Sorry. When the Russell Wilson tradition first happened. Not many Hawks fans here in my sleepy little town. My best Seahawks moment was when I flew to Seattle by myself to watch them play Detroit and was basically adopted by a family of 12s who took me in and made my trip amazing. Now I am a 12 for life. Thanks for the podcast. Working on the farm is much more fun with hours of nerding out to the Seahawks." From Mark.
Thanks, Mark. See, these are the type of emails I like so much because basically, I mean, our fandom, it brings us together over country lines, over oceans. I mean, heck, Mark, you might be a little wrongheaded about which football is the best, but his water spins backwards down there, so there's nothing he can do about it. Like, it's just got to be confusing. But our fandoms, it brings us all together, despite boundaries, color, creed, all that, and I love that sort of thing. And to be adopted, we have the best fans. The 12s are the best, with their compassion and just like, hey, here's our lost little Aussie. Let's bring him on in here. That was bad, but you're going to have to deal with it.
I'll barely go to a movie by myself, but to fly across the ocean and to go to a football game by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy
catfish,
man.
That's impressive.
That's impressive. A few more new members to welcome, including MK Cornfield in with a $5 pledge. Welcome to MK.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
And a couple people in at the $3 level. And we talked about this before. We have an anonymous donor who's willing to match everybody who joins at the $3 level and higher with another $3 pledge. So it was cool to see so many people taking advantage of this. We appreciate it.
And the other bonus to getting from, say, the $1 level to the $3 level, you become a part of our Patreon Pick'em League.
Yes.
And there's extra prizes and things like that there, and fewer people to compete against. Your odds are a little higher. But really, don't get your hopes up, because I'm going to stomp you in the Patreon one, and I'm going to stomp you in our regular Seahawkers Podcast Pick'em League, too. Just own you.
Seahawkerspodcast.com/pick'em. That gets you in the regular league. And if you're one of these $3 pledges, I will email you the link to our Patreon only league. And so welcome to all our $3 pledges, including welcome to the flock to Joe McKenna. Welcome to the flock to Arthur Uribe. Welcome to the flock to Gabriel Ford. Welcome to Ian Code. And welcome to the flock to Kyle McGarry.
Holy crap. All those dudes at the $3 level.
Yeah. You're going to have a hard time winning in the patron league.
Oh, it's just going to be so much sweeter when I smack down all those dudes. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
And then we had two more people in at the stickers and bonus episode level. Welcome to the flock to Randy Horner, and welcome to the flock to Gail Proctor.
Well, Randy and Gail, I am looking forward to the bonus shows this offseason. Gosh, we're not even the offseason anymore. We're in the regular season. I look forward to it in the season because we're going to do our picks throughout all that. I love doing the picks. It's really fun. Most people that did kind of tune into that I thought enjoyed. And best part is no Jared this year.
Jared this year, so you will not have to hear just somebody going on about how great the Broncos are every week.
And pick against the Seahawks every single week just because.
That's true.
He's a jerk on the inside.
Just because he's a jerk on the inside. But
yeah.
Thanks to Randy for sending along the note. It sounds like he's also in this area in enemy lines, Niner territory, and said thanks for the show. And then also a couple guys bumped up, gave us raises this last week. Flocktimus Prime, Keith Kedover, he upped his pledge to the $12 level. Garrett in Northern Ontario upped his pledge. And
really?
So
right on.
We'll be giving those dudes their monthly shout out at the first of the month for being up at that level. So thanks to you guys. And with the move of Flocktimus Prime up to the $12 level, it opened up a spot for Jay Scott, who's in the Ring of Honor now as a part of the Active 53.
I think you'll find it a really fun place. We had a lot of fun just this preseason game going back and forth amongst all of us. Super fun.
Yeah, and Jace.
I'll say fun again. It's fun.
It's fun. It's fantastic. Really fun. If you're Pete Carroll, you'd say fantastic or great.
Yeah, there's nothing more funner than it, is what I can tell you. It's fun.
Well, Jace sent along a note, says, hey guys, there are a couple things I really need to get off my chest. Last year, before the season, my mother got a Stephen Hauschka jersey. I should have known that spelled bad things to come. Now we get to experience the Blair Witch Project. Sorry, the Blair Walsh experience. Having lived in Lansing, Michigan from 2014 to 2016, I had the opportunity to go see some Spartan games and was extremely thrilled when we drafted Malik McDowell because that man is a behemoth and a beast on the gridiron. However, as all things Seahawks fans know by now, our excitement was likely for naught. And he might be referencing the fact that Coach Carroll here in his Monday press conference essentially said that they're not even going to be seeing him at the facility for a couple weeks. So
he didn't even say a couple weeks. He said for weeks.
Yes, weeks.
Like it could be a while.
And I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about this. And for me, I've had a friend who, and actually he's been on the show, who had just a significant concussion. And I don't know if that's, I know they mentioned that McDowell
but
had
the only
one.
thing we can confirm.
Right.
Yeah. And facial injuries of some kind.
And when people have a super significant one, they're not supposed to do anything. I mean, just except lay there and, not watch TV, not read, not do anything. And so it takes a while to come back from. And you see if you're a parent who's had a student athlete who's had a concussion, a significant concussion in a sporting event, they like to work in schoolwork slowly. Just to give the brain a rest. And so maybe that's what we're seeing here. We don't know, but to me, it lines up with the type of concussion that you would see somebody take off months for.
Yeah, it can get really nasty. I had a cousin who got a pretty gnarly ski accident and where he hit somebody when he was flying and their skis smashed him in the face and it busted his entire face off, had to be life flighted off, all that, right? The big concussion. And it was a good 6-8 month recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, easy between all that. So it's a lost season. I think we can pretty much all kind of count on that at this point.
I feel that should probably be our expectation.
Yeah, that's where I'm putting it for myself anyway.
Back to Jace's email, says, I am so stoked for the Legion of Boom to be back in full force with a lot of depth behind them for years to come. I know all of us 12s are. Honestly, I hate to admit it, but I had already figured Cam was worth way more than the Seahawks could pay and figured he would be gone after the season to a desperate team with cap space. I'm glad the brotherhood is real and they all wanted to stick together. And that was one thing that stood out from his contract, right, Adam, is the idea that it made it clear that Cam wanted to be here.
Yeah, just the way it was structured and everything, it did definitely feel that way. And boy, does anything shoot down that Seth Wickersham article more than, say, facts like Cam sticking around for less money and structuring it the way that he did? that's team friendly. Like, I mean, he had to have won or been there. There's nothing that strikes down that argument that they all hate each other more than something like that.
Chase goes on, says, I needed to readjust my Hawkra and decided that the issue was that my value for the Seahawkers podcast was equal. I found myself checking my podcasting app multiple times per day to see if a new episode had dropped, and I realized the work that you guys put in and the info and laughs I get are worth more than $1 per month. I upped it to the $6 level.
Oh, wow. Well, I appreciate the raise, dude. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thought, is that value for value. I'm glad, man, the idea that it's $6 a month value to you, that gives me a warm fuzzy. Like, that's a nice feeling.
And so, yeah, Jace, you and your fiance Alexa have a great time celebrating your first anniversary together.
Yes.
At the August 25th game against the Chiefs, the best way 212s can, and have a great time. Oh, she doesn't know yet. It's a surprise, so hopefully she doesn't listen to the show, and we just gave it away. But Jace,
I'm not in on this. I'm out. That's not. Nope.
Jace didn't say to leave this part out. He said, and after all that, there's only one thing left to say. Go Hawks.
All right. Go Hawks. And that Chiefs game, not this Friday, it turns out. It's the next week.
Jace is going to be really happy to hear that he has the right date. Yeah.
Exactly.
And also going to the Atlanta and the Philly game. So that'll be cool. I don't think we aren't going to either one of those. Bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, and Johnny Morales gave us a raise up to the $3 level to get in the patron league. So
thanks, Johnny. Yeah. And it's nice of you to throw your hat in the ring in the crucible that is the Patron Pick'em League.
You're all going down.
Yeah.
But I have a title to defend this year, Adam, and I'm going to have to take you down.
Okay, good luck with that.
I'll take all the luck you give me.
I smoked you for like 99% of the year. I don't know how that went so downhill in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I came strong at the end.
Something like that. I think you rigged it.
I probably did find a way to rig it.
Yeah.
But thanks to all our new members of the flock, you can go to getintheflock.com. Sign up there if you want to join us in our Patreon Pick'em League at the $3 level or higher. We'll have weekly prizes. We have the big prizes for the end of the year. If you have a lot of cats in your house, you can have a mini helmet for each one of them. I like to think of that as how I would want to use my mini helmets.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Just put them on the cats, put some catnip on the face mask, and
videotape, put it on YouTube. You're going to make millions.
Exactly.
2 kitten videos with mini football helmets.
Oh my gosh, it would be the best thing ever.
That's like a retirement scheme. Like, you do that, put up about 5-hour videos, you're done.
When you do that video,
Ching.
Make sure you give credit to the Seahawkers podcast, and it'll probably get about 1 million views.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Adam, what do you say we get into some email?
All right, I'm excited. You pumped me up for one of these, so
I did, and
better be good.
Let's go right to it. It's from Ed. Says, "Hi, fellas. Thank you."
Is this Ed Essie?
This is.
Oh, right on.
One of our members of the flock.
Yeah.
Says, "Thank you for running a fantastic show. I had a rough off season, being diagnosed with cancer in February. Chemo kept me fatigued and disoriented for the past several months. I was unable to focus enough to read, watch long shows, or do many things that normally would keep me occupied. What worked for me? Podcasts. And the Seahawkers podcast was my go-to show. You were terrific, keeping me entertained and informed throughout the off-season. I listened to many back episodes and stayed current while undergoing my treatments. You kept the off-season fun. I'm happy to say that I ended July with the best news possible. The cancer is gone. I'm grateful for your show, and I'm proud that I joined the flock to celebrate the end of my chemo. I'm glad to be returning to health just in time for the preseason. Go Hawks." From Ed.
So, Brandon, you didn't lie. That is the best email ever. Ed, no idea that you were struggling with all that, man. And yes, that is the best news ever. That here in July that you've been declared cancer-free, because we all know bad podcasts are the best medicine. So
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
No, that's a phrase. You should look it up. But the idea that Brandon and I could, bring just a little bit of, joy, I guess, is during that time. I mean, Holy cow, man. Thank you. And I'm really glad you're well.
Very happy that you're well, Ed. And yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that email. I know as soon as I saw it, I shared it with my wife. I shared it with my boss at work because knowing knowing that we helped you get through a tough time, I'm really glad you shared that.
Yeah, there's been unexpected, really cool things to come out of doing the show. And this is obviously one of them. And it's beyond anything we would have ever thought when we started doing it. And it's a cool feeling. It does make it feel really worthwhile.
These are the types of the unexpected things that really makes it worth doing.
Yeah. So thank you, Ed.
Well, as we go from Ed, we go to reigning Pick'em League champion Gary in Chappaqua.
Hey, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Well, and Gary found it consistently all season long last year.
I know he did. It was really sickening. It was gross.
He took home the Steve Largent autographed jersey. And
did he even have one bad week?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think so, because he was always near the top. So Gary writes in and said, love the interview with Clint Gresham. On the non-football side, he hits on a very important point that I always talk about with my financial planning clients. The idea that in everything, not just money, we change our outcome for the better by keeping a focus and appreciation on what we have and not losing time lamenting what we don't have or almost had. That said, I am very grateful that our Hawks brought us the one Lombardi, and while there could have been more, we should continue to enjoy that and keep our focus and effort on watching them strive for a second. Brandon, you asked Clint a question that I was planning on writing you about while you were talking about falling in love with a guy that will ultimately get cut from the 53-man. Why can't an NFL center learn to long snap as well?
Right.
Love Gresham, but wouldn't the roster flexibility of having a dual threat snapper be potentially vital in this era of advanced analytics and searching for slight edges, not carrying 3 QBs on the roster? I would think that the incremental value of an extra roster spot on game day would be worth it. High school coaches should be developing the dual threat snapper.
Yes.
From Gary.
Gary is onto something here. So, number one, we talked about John Schneider's interview the other day where he talked about there's just no offensive lineman out there.
Yeah.
And so one of the things he also talked about was the idea that there's going to be a point where there will be a bunch of offensive linemen because kids are going to start to look at it and be like, look at that dude. He got paid and he's no good. That dude got paid and he's no good. I'm going to do this instead. And so I think if you're a young kid, listen up, because this is sage advice right now. Start learning to play center and then become a dual threat snapper. Because can you imagine your value to the league when there's a dearth of talent? Is dearth lots or little?
Little.
I always get this one mixed up.
A little.
Okay, yes. Okay, so a dearth of talent. Like, can you imagine a guy that can do it both? It'd be huge. You're getting rich. Keep getting them checks.
Hey, it doesn't even have to be a center. Clint mentioned that a lot of dudes who are linebackers were trying a long snap. So, I mean, if you can play linebacker, if you can play defensive line, if you can play tight end, if you can play fullback, be long snapping too. Now, we do see, though, when you go to training camp, the special teams dudes, the long snapper, the punter, and the kicker, while everybody else is running through their drills, doing their work.
Chill.
Those guys are just hanging out, throwing the football. I saw Tyler Ott trying to throw 2 footballs at once at the same time where Russell Wilson's working on red zone drills with the first team offense, and other guys are just over there screwing around.
Yeah, I almost asked Clint about that. That was one of the questions that I had written down was just, you guys get your own field and just get to screw around all day. Like, how is it that everybody doesn't hate you?
I know.
Because they really do. They just goof off all day. It's a good thing for their deal, no doubt about it.
Well, thanks to everybody for the email. What do you say we get on to do better and better at life?
Sounds good, man. Wind us up.
My do better this week is for former Packers tight end Jermichael Finley. And he popped into the news this week with a Twitter post, and he says, athletes are looked up to and serve as role models. He misspelled role, by the way, but that's okay. Leave personal opinions about race and politics alone. Do what you get paid to do and play. And you hear this shut up and play mentality from fans quite a bit.
We hear it when we have to talk about this stuff about shut up and talk about football.
Exactly.
It's one of the reasons we haven't really touched on this much throughout the show.
Stop talking politics and talk football. But I brought it up before. I don't like the shut up and play mentality. Michael Bennett's a dude who he has individual thoughts and beliefs. And there's, when you get down to the 53-man roster, every one of those guys has different thoughts and beliefs. I, as a fellow human, can come to expect that not all fellow humans think the same way that I do. And what? I know it's a weird thought to have, but I'm willing to accept it. And I know that Michael Bennett on a lot of issues doesn't think the same way as me. And I know that Michael Bennett's heart's in the right place with his protest. He has a dad who served in the Navy. So I know that Michael Bennett's protest has nothing to do against the military. He's not protesting the military. So we should...
Doesn't seem to be. No. Yeah. If you take him at just his word, which should be enough, right? That's not what this is about to him.
Not what it's about to him. But the idea in this is that here we are, after we've had all these stances by athletes over the years, we still have a fellow athlete that's coming out and saying, shut up and play. And it makes no sense to me.
Well, not only that, but he's being stupidly hypocritical with the comment. He's like, you're supposed to be a role model, but don't go out there and try to affect children or other people around you as a role model,
right?
By going out and this is how you're a better person. This is, all that stuff. That's what being a role model is being outspoken. That's what it is.
And Michael Bennett, and see, the thing is that when everybody goes out and praises Michael Bennett for standing up against not taking fast food endorsement money, nobody seems to have a problem with Mike Bennett in that regard, being a role model and standing up for what he believes. But as soon as it's a stance that doesn't align with their own, and probably in this case with Jermichael Finley, it doesn't line up with his own personal stance, and now he has to criticize. All the football players on the field have different thoughts and beliefs. And the one thing that's cool is that they can all come together. And just like last year, when you saw the whole team lock arms in unity, they all came together. And that part of it can be inspiring, that that there's that many different beliefs, yet they play together as one team when it comes game day, everybody week to week. And Jermichael Finley, for bringing up this nonsense, do better.
A good point, Brandon, that you make. Michael Bennett's more than just a football player. He's a human being with thoughts and stuff.
Right.
And I think he should be able to express it.
I think we should recognize that.
Nobody looks at you and says, shut up and do more accounting. You know what I mean? If you express an opinion. Like, it's just...
We expect our coworkers to have opinions. And I guarantee you have somebody at work. You probably even have people you consider really good friends that have different opinions from you. Yes. And you accept them as friends. And you listen to their thoughts and ideas. And maybe you argue a little bit, but you can still come together on things.
Exactly. All right. One thing that, a good example of this, Brandon, is a little bit of my do better, because we have a very different relationship with Twitter, you and I. You kind of like it. I kind of hate it. And but we still like each other. We have a difference in opinion.
Yes, we do have a different view on that. I understand.
So my do better this week is for the Twitterverse. Because Twitter, you had an opportunity to do something cool and you screwed it up. So NASA is celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Voyager 1 space probe. And you'd be like, well, that's not that cool. Yes, it is. It's still flying. It's still going. It has actually reached interstellar space. It flew by Saturn, sent us back pictures, flew through the Kuiper Belt, all the way out now in interstellar space. It's no longer in our solar system. It's got a golden record on it that Carl Sagan and his girlfriend sat down and figured out what should be put on there in case an alien should come across it, right? That we could tell them about ourselves so that they'd have an idea about what humanity's all about. It's got some music, some drawings, all sorts of crazy stuff, some poetry. So to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Voyager space probe, which is still going strong out there. Keep strong, Voyager. NASA decided that they would put out a contest to Twitter, and the best tweet that was given to Voyager with the hashtag message to Voyager, they would then beam it the 13 billion miles from Earth to Voyager. You had a chance to send a message to that little spacecraft that was created far before Twitter ever came around. Here's some of the gems that they came up with. Hashtag message to Voyager. Send me the P tape for research. Hashtag message to Voyager. Send nudes. Hashtag message to Voyager. Where do I get weed? Let's see. Hashtag message to Voyager. You said that you would buy cigarettes, but never came back.
Wow.
Send nudes. You up? Poop.
That's my favorite.
Send nudes. Pee is stored in the balls. This is what they came up with. This is the best that the Twitterverse could come up with. Nothing profound, nothing cool about space or something. Nothing to let us know like what's going on back here. Twitterverse, do better.
I think You Up is my favorite.
You Up? Yeah. That was I get that one. Okay. I maybe. Just seemed like such a not that I sat down and thought about what I would have, entered, but it'd have been more poignant than that.
There are only 4 characters that I would need to send to Voyager.
Okay.
43-8. 43 to 8.
Boom. And there it is. That's how you know Brandon's better at Twitter than me right there.
Right. I keep it concise.
Yes. Keep it concise. Has meaning.
Hashtag message to Voyager.
Memorable. Hashtag message to Voyager.
All right, Adam. On to Better at Life.
My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for Bill Gates, former partner with our team owner, Paul Allen. And basically my Better at Life for Bill Gates this week is he just gave away 64 million shares of Microsoft this week. Wow. And how much does that work out monetarily wise, you might ask?
More than 64 million.
$4.6 billion to his foundation, the Bill and Miranda Gates Foundation. And they do all sorts of charitable works all over the world. A lot of it's like with clean water and things like that, or research into disease and things of that nature. I mean, this is a guy who's literally the richest man in the world. And he was like, yeah, what's my write-off going to be this year? About $4.6 billion. You can do a lot with that. And that's a huge donation. And he's running out of stock. Like, he's getting close to being out of stock to give away.
Okay.
I mean, not that he minds too much, but
sure.
I thought that was a pretty cool thing for him to do. I don't know too many people who have ever done that sort of charity, like that kind of just in dollar amounts.
I think that's going to be a hard number to beat.
Yes. Bill Gates, better at life than Skip Bayless.
I like it. All right. My Better at Life this week is for our cold-blooded defensive coordinator, Chris Richard.
Yeah, he has no feelings on the inside. It's clear.
The reason I know that he's cold-blooded is because against the Chargers, at the end of the game, up 48-17, the Chargers now, mind you, with 12 seconds left on the game, call timeout so they can get in one more play, right? Or a couple more plays. Down 48-17. I think that Richard didn't like this very much because he dialed up a corner blitz in the fourth quarter of a preseason game where they are crushing the Los Angeles Chargers. And we see Pierre Desir come off the edge and just nail their fourth string quarterback right in the back to cause a fumble, give us the ball back so we can kneel down the game and end it appropriately. And for that, Chris Richard, better at life than Skip Bayless.
I'm surprised Richard didn't just like run out on the field after that and be like, that's what you get. That's what you get.
I wanted to see it. I bet he felt that on the inside because that's how I felt. That's how I felt on the inside.
That's a good better at life. All right, man. Felt good to be back this week with real football to talk about. It's going to be even better next week when we get 2 games under our belts. We can see the consistent performers going forward here. We're going to see that running game open up next week. I'm convinced of it. Mark it down. I mean, I could be wrong, but whatever. And on top of all of that, by next week, you'll be out of enemy territory. So
that's right.
Nice.
I will be out of enemy territory next week. A big thanks to Jessamyn for coming on the show this week.
She's awesome.
Looking forward to next week breaking down the Vikings and the Seahawks. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.